I grew up, and my best friend, she's Chinese. We're still close friends after 30 years of friendship. And her dad would always make us beef and broccoli. So this I really consider is comfort food. And it was the third thing I learned how to cook. I made, I think, scrambled eggs and pancakes before that. So what's funny about this recipe is their dad has never written down anything, and he kind of changes up the variations every time. So we've done our best, my friend and I, to write down exactly what he uses and how he creates this technique. But there is a lot of room for whatever you like to add, whether that's making it spicy with chili flakes or adding ginger. So let me walk you through it. I'm going to start by making rice, and I've got a cup of jasmine rice here, and I've already washed it until the water runs clear. And I'm adding this to a saucepan, a shallow saucepan. I don't have a rice cooker, which surprises a lot of people, but I cook small amounts of rice. I usually cook only 1 cup of rice at a time. So I just find that it's better to make it in a saucepan. I'm adding 2 cups of water to this, and this is actually a made pan. I really love it, and it comes with this kind of universal top that can be used for the different sizes of pans. So I'm adding this to the stove, and I'm going to bring it to a boil, and then I wonder if I have my diffuser. Sometimes I use the diffuser to turn down the heat, but aha, here it is. Okay, here's my diffuser. You can get these at like restaurant supply stores, and they're really amazing. In fact, sometimes I'll put like my coffee, if I have a Chemex coffee, I'll put that on the stove too to keep it warm. So when that comes to a boil, I'll put this underneath the stovetop. Okay, now meanwhile, we're gonna prepare the beef. So I have about a pound of, this was labeled as stir fry beef at the grocery. It's usually like the cheapest cut of meat. And I use kitchen shears, and I cut it into about like 1-inch or 2-inch pieces. Sometimes they're thinner pieces. So this is probably going to feed 1 or 2 people. And then I'm going to salt the meat pretty liberally, about like 2 pinches of salt. And then I'm going to use a 1/4 cup of, this is soy sauce, but this Eden brand I really love, and they label it as show you. I can't remember the difference, but that's the brand I prefer for the flavor. So this is about, it can be, I might add 3 tablespoons. So 3 tablespoons. My cup measure has 3 tablespoons. It's like divided by the tablespoons. And then I need to add 2 tablespoons. This is like the secret ingredient. This is oyster sauce. If you're veggie and making this, I think you could just leave it out, but you might want to see if there's like kind of mushroom sauce or something you could add to create that umami flavor. This has MSG, this Red Panda sort of brand. I'm not afraid of MSG. It gives food incredible savory flavor. It's what makes your Lay's potato chips so freaking addictive. But there are brands out there that have 0 MSG if that is a concern of yours. And then I add a little dash of sesame oil. I like toasted sesame oil. This is again Eden brand. I just really like this brand. I prefer it too for like canned beans. Okay, I think, oh, and then this is a little knob of ginger, and I don't know if y'all have ever tried this trick, but if you use a spoon, you can easily scrape the skin off of the ginger. So I'm gonna do that over here. And I might actually, since I typically try and marinate this for like 4 to 8 hours. So, you know, do this in the morning or during lunch and then cook it at night. But since we are doing this all live, I might actually slice this ginger up a little bit, and you can just kind of eat around the chunks. I even will sometimes mince this up because I like eating ginger. I like the flavor of ginger. It just depends on how much tolerance you have for spiciness. So here's my chunk, and here's my really sharp chef's knife. This is called Artisan Revere. If you have one exceptional chef's knife, your life will be so much easier. This knife, like, it slices through things like butter, and that's really the trick to cooking quickly. So I've got my little pieces of ginger, and I'm going to mix this up. You could cover this and put it back in the fridge, but we are going to cook it pretty soon, so I'm not too concerned. So here's my final, and I'm just going to set it aside for now and rinse my spoon. I try not to use like a trillion utensils because I live in a San Francisco apartment. I wash everything by hand. I don't have a dishwasher. Okay, so rice is not boiling just yet. I'm going to turn on the wok. And I have a scan pan. You can use even like a cast iron pan or a cast iron wok. I love scan pan because it's nonstick. And we're gonna use peanut oil. This is another secret ingredient. Sometimes it comes roasted like this, which has a lot of flavor. You can also use refined peanut oil. It's flavorless, and I don't want to be held accountable for this, but the Peanut Institute says if it's refined and you have allergies, you can still use it. I wouldn't recommend risking it, but a lot of fast food restaurants like In-N-Out Burger use refined peanut oil to fry their French fries. So we have about a tablespoon of oil in there and it's heating up. I'm gonna add another pinch of salt to the pan, let that heat. While it's doing its thing, I'm gonna show you how to prep the broccoli. So I have a head of broccoli here, and all of these little pieces are really good. You wanna keep those, they are full of vitamins. And I always cook the stem. I just use a vegetable peeler and I kind of peel the outside to get like the rough exterior off. And sometimes if the broccoli is particularly rough, I'll even do like each individual stem. So I'm just gonna cut off that, and we compost in San Francisco. I'm placing this in my sink to compost later. So you kind of pick all of the broccoli florets off that you can. And again, I'm just using I'm cutting little medallions for the stems, as you can see. And then I cut the pieces into like bite size. I'm gonna turn this down just a little bit. I should have done my broccoli prep first, but I really want this wok like pretty hot when it comes time to doing my broccoli. And this came up last week. Mark was asking, oh, do you heat your pan first and then add the oil, or vice versa? And it kind of depends on the pan, because this is nonstick. It doesn't matter because the pores of the pan don't need to open up before I add the oil and the salt. But if I were using a traditional stainless steel pan, then you would. So as you can see, this is really kind of a quick process. I always use a stem. I try not to avoid food waste. And there goes my rice. I don't know if you could hear it, but it is boiling. So I'm adding that that diffuser on there so it can kind of steam slowly. I know a lot of people have problems. If you don't have a rice cooker, getting rice to cook beautifully and evenly and fluffy without like burning it on the bottom of the pan. And that diffuser is kind of how you can avoid that. So we are getting close to this broccoli being prepped. Hopefully, is this interesting for y'all? See how I like prep veg? Am I getting that? Yeah, kind of. You can see
I like your little tricks.
Yeah, I mean, I try to do it like as fast as possible. I try to get dinner on the table like within 30 minutes. That's like how I roll. So I'm using, like I said, I try and not waste as much as possible. I know like growing up with my friend Devon and her dad, like it was never a good thing if you left a granule of rice, like you kind of really respected food and tried not to waste it. So I try to have that honor and respect for food, especially during this time. And I try to also wipe up and be clean as much as possible, so that cleanup is easy later. Okay, so this is gonna be really hot and sizzly. Can y'all hear that? Yeah,
we can.
That's like the best sound in the world, I think, is that sizzle in the pan. So in goes the broccoli. And actually, I I'm gonna use a little bit of smoked salt here. This is a brand I really love. This is LeBlanc. This is when I worked at Pop Sugar, the founder Lisa, her best friend, has a husband who worked in Michelin star restaurants in New York City, and he became a spice master and opened his own spice shop. And this is salt, Malden sea salt that he smokes, and it just smells incredible. So it adds like another depth of flavor. You absolutely don't have to do fancy salt. I just sometimes like to do little things like that. Okay, so I want to make sure the broccoli is kind of getting a chance to get coated in all that oil. And I think when it comes to cooking, if you have, I prefer gas heat. It helps you control the temperature. But I think you shouldn't be afraid to play around with the heat. And when it comes to stir frying, I think more heat, the better. But you can just, you know, kind of sear the exterior, lock in the moisture. So can y'all see this broccoli? Maybe I can come down and show you closer. Can y'all see that? So again, I'm kind of getting it coated, and then in a second here, I'm going to, I kind of want, when broccoli is raw, it kind of has some white on the florets, and you kind of want to get it to this sort of place. You kind of want it to turn dark green. And if you're wondering why I can touch things raw, I worked in a restaurant. I kind of have no touch on my fingertips because I worked with really hot pizza ovens. But you know, obviously don't intentionally try to burn myself. I actually only burned myself once, and it was in culinary school. I'm pretty proud of that. A lot of chefs are like proud of their battle wounds and scars all on their forearms, but in my mind, that's a sign of carelessness. But you know, not trying to be too judgy. Okay, so this is looking really good, and I'm at the point where I want to add a few tablespoons of water. I'm going to grab that. And so you're going to kind of create a steam effect. So that was like maybe an eighth to a quarter cup of water. And if you don't have these kind of, sorry, this is like very used and dirty, but this is a silicone, I don't even know what they call these, cover. You can use these in place of saran wrap, which is really awesome. So with leftovers, you can add this to a bowl. You can also, if you have a wok or some other sort of, really it's for any size pot, you can kind of use this as a cover. And so we're gonna let that steam for a little bit. So I'm just
I've
gonna
never
check
seen
out.
one of those. Where do you get that?
This is from Sur La Table, but I'm
Okay.
sure if you just looked up, silicone, what do you even call it? Cover, silicone lid cover, it would pull up. Okay, so we're gonna need the peanut oil. I'm gonna put these to the side. One other word about oyster sauce, and apologies if you're Brian, are you veggie? I don't think you're veggie. No. Oyster sauce is amazing if you're like, what do I do with this? Why would I need this giant bottle of a condiment I don't use and understand? This, it's kind of like the equivalent of adding anchovies or like fish sauce to food, although it is not as acidic. It's more sweet, sticky, and very savory. So there's nothing like it in the world. It is its own kind of thing, but you can dip scrambled eggs in it. It's great with chicken. I mean, obviously fish, stir fry is amazing. Vegetables, it's amazing. So it's really kind of like, you can stir fry pretty much anything and use this as kind of the base flavor. So let's see how our broccoli is doing. I'm feeling like it's been a minute. Ooh, can y'all see that?
Looks good.
Yeah, so it's not quite there yet. I'm gonna, because as you can see, some of these pieces still have a little bit of white on them. You really want the broccoli to be like tender when you bite into it. That's kind of what I'm looking for. That's what I consider to be like perfect broccoli. But that's just me. I mean, some people might like theirs crunchier. Some people, yeah. Can y'all hear that? It's like way too crunchy. Okay. I'm bringing my beef over here too. Although you don't want to mix raw and cooked. So I'm just gonna wash my hands to make sure I'm really being as careful as possible, especially in these times. Checking on my rice. Actually, it might already be done. Yeah, can y'all see that?
Oh, wow.
So sometimes what I like to do is turn the rice off, but keep it steaming for like 5 more minutes. And that is really how it continues to cook and become that perfect consistency that you're aiming for. So let's see, my broccoli is ready. Sometimes when I have people watching me, I'm like more of an active cook, but usually I like walk away and let things be. No, we're close. Now, I recommend salting, like salt as you go, salt and taste. So this to me definitely needs more salting. And you see, I'm using like quite a lot of salt, like many pinches of salt. And if ever you're like, my food at home just really isn't flavorful or interesting, it probably either needs more salt, oil, or an acid, but salt usually goes a very long way, and y'all are gonna kind of get a kick out of this. But I have like 4 different types of salt, which I'm happy to show you. We're getting close, but this is still not ready. So I'm just gonna show you this. This is a Mediterranean sea salt that has like a very, I guess, briny almost flavor. And this is just kosher salt, which is my, little standby. And then I have Himalayan sea salt, which is very mineral rich. And so I use that usually to garnish. And it's also, these are different, as you can see, the granules are even different, which adds texture and variety. And then of course I have this flaky sea salt, which usually is a garnishing salt too, but I'm being a rebel. All right, so let's try this one more time. I should have been looking at the clock, but oh well, All right. Oh wow, incredible.
So can I ask you a question? Would like sometimes like when I do my stir fries, I would do the meat first. Like you saute the meat first and then you add the broccoli.
Yeah.
Kind of like cook the meat first. So it's, because you mentioned like you don't want to mix them. Is that okay to do, or should I always cook them separate?
Do you. You said that works. This is just how I learned this technique. So it's really up to you. What I like about this is you get to put the beef on top, and all the sauces kind of gets like into every crevice of the broccoli, which I like. But again, this is just how I learned. So it doesn't make it right. It's just one way of doing things. So you saw I wiped the pan clean, and we're starting again with peanut oil. So I'm adding, when I'm at work, I work at Brava, and the chef there calls it a glug of oil. So I used a glug of oil, which is approximately 1 tablespoon. And then I'm adding the beef, and I'm gonna rinse the spoon too, because, just keep it clean presentation for y'all. So you hear that? That's like the sound you're looking for with stir fry. And oh, this looks so good. I'm so excited. This is my every night, by the way. I'm like, I'm making such a delicious dinner for one. I wish you could be here. I honestly have enough to feed the 2 of you at least.
We wish we could be there too.
I know. Next
2 more
time.
months.
Yeah, in a few more months, come visit. So I'm just gonna kind of let this do its thing. With beef, you don't really have to worry about cooking it through. It's kind of nice to have it a little bit pink, in my opinion, but you do you. Oh, did I forget one thing? I did forget one thing. Well, you do have the option of adding more sugar. This is monk fruit sugar, and I use this in a lot of my stir fries. In fact, if you're interested, I could show you my tofu stir fry at some point. I forgot to add that in. It's going to be fine because the oyster sauce has sugar in it, so it will already be a little sweet. And usually, if I do add it, it's only like a teaspoon, so it's not going to be enough to make a flavor difference. And such is life, you know. We forget ingredients, we roll with the punches, and it really won't impact the flavor too much. All right, so as y'all can see, this is like coming together really quickly. Oh, this is smelling so good. Oh, can y'all see this? Like, maybe I should come closer. Y'all see what's happening?
Nice sizzles.
Oh yeah, sizzle is super important. And you can add, like I said, you can add garlic to this. If you like spicy, you can certainly add some chili, whatever you have, make it work. I'm just gonna kind of get it to the point where the beef is kind of, I don't see any raw bits on the exterior. And then, oh God, this looks so good.
How long do you normally cook it?
So probably like, I don't know, did y'all count? It might be like 4 minutes, 5 minutes. I normally, what did I say in my recipe?
Like
3 to
5
4
minutes.
minutes. Yeah. I think it depends on the volume. Like if you were to add like 2 pounds of beef, it might take longer just because the pan, you know, oh gosh, this is smelling so good. So yeah, I think it's usually like 3 to 5 minutes. I'm gonna say 4 minutes to be extra safe, but this is looking pretty good. I also kind of feel the pieces. I don't know if I kind of like, once they become taut, you know, they're cooked through, but I kind of want them to still give just the tiniest bit because I like my steak to be like a little bit, just a little bit rare. All right, I feel like we're in a good spot. I'm feeling good about this, so I am gonna pour this over the broccoli. Y'all can see, hopefully y'all can see.
Yeah, that looks really good. And
See,
really,
that
was a fast meal.
Yeah, it's done. What did I tell you? Did I tell you 20 minutes? I did, and here we are, 20 minutes. All right, so here's beef and broccoli in 20 minutes.
Oh.
Super healthy, super fresh. And I have rice. And you can add if you want, if you're like into sesame seeds or scallion or whatever, you can add that, but nah, I'm not gonna do that. I do that on my tofu, but usually not on my beef and broccoli. So you can see here's my rice. Hopefully it's gonna behave for us.
Is that a specific rice cooker pot? Because when I make rice like that, I always burn it or it's undercooked.
Yeah, no, this is a Maiden pot, which I love this brand. It's just called Made In. Can you see that? Can you read that? Mm-hmm. And they have these kind of pots that come with one lid. It comes with this like big universal lid, so you only have one heavy duty. It's kind of a silicone coated metal lid, so it's really heavy, and they're great. I love this. All right, so I'm gonna plate this up and serve myself, because why not? We have time. So as you can see, rice is looking good.
So what are you thinking for your next meal?
Well, y'all tell me. Y'all have been here. What do you want me to cook? You tell me.
I love like fried chicken.
Oh, okay. Fried chicken is really tough. I could do how about I do a baked fried chicken? How do you feel about that?
Interesting.
I could also do a pan fried. Yeah, I fear for people getting fried chicken.
Or what's your favorite, like your favorite go-to dish to make?
Honestly, it's depending on my mood. So here's my plate of beef and broccoli.
Beautiful.
I know it doesn't look quite like my shot photography, but similar, right? Like, you know,
Yeah.
I was gonna eat a piece and tell y'all what it's like. You could know. Oh God, I mean, the steak is like super juicy. I don't know if y'all can see that. Can you see that?
We're like, give me some.
Oh my God, so good. Wow. Yeah. It's salty, savory. Oh my God. So good. I'm gonna eat the rest of this in a minute. I'm gonna finish my bite. Oh, it's so tender. Oh. Ask me a question and then I'll get to it.
You go, Brian.
You
But
have
that
to
looks
marinate?
really good.
Did you have to marinate the beef quite a bit?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I marinated it for 10 minutes and it's still so tender, but like no gristly bits, no chewy bits, but we can marinate it for up to 8 hours. But honestly, as long as you salt the beef and then add the marinade, it's going to be seasoned and it's going to be tender. Although I could have just gotten really lucky with the beef and it was just like a really good cut. But in terms of, okay, I like your fried chicken idea. I'm gonna mull on it in terms of how I want to show it for people, because I want them to get it right. I'd almost rather teach people how to make a rotisserie chicken or a spatchcock chicken. I feel like everyone could benefit from knowing how to do that. It's a little less hands-on, but while it's baking, I could do. Go ahead, Brian.
It would be interesting also, like you showed last time, the Instant Pot, and like it was, just inspiring because I had it sitting around. Just what other simple dishes could you do, in an Instant Pot, so people who have it actually get to cooking
Can
and
use
do it
it.
quickly. Yeah.
Yes.
Simple stuff.
So one thing I could show, which is really easy, is you do sweet potatoes on the bottom, and then you layer on top frozen salmon or fish fillets, and you kind of create sandwiches with orange slices, and then you add another bowl and you can put broccoli on top, and I think you just pressure cook it for 2 minutes. This is the recipe I came up with for Brit & Co. when I was their food editor, and it's awesome. And when the citrus comes out, it just like is melty, and it's so nice with the fish. And you can season the fish however you like. Maybe I'll show that one off. But Jules, I'm gonna be thinking about your fried chicken, thinking how I can make it easy and accessible for people.
Yeah, I love fried chicken or wings.
Oh, wings would be a good one. Wings would be a really good one. Okay. I would love to do wings. Like, what marinade do you normally do for your wings?
So I make either honey and some kind of chili, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or barbecue, or of course buffalo sauce. My dog likes it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, buffalo sauce chicken wings are so good.
Do you know how to make your own buffalo sauce? That would be kind of interesting to do.
I normally will do Frank's Red Hot plus butter. I'm like, why mess with a good thing? But that is interesting.
That's how I do it.
Yeah, it's like you can't really go wrong with that. Brava, I feel like I want to show something off in Brava one of these times. Brava makes incredible chicken wings because, so Brava is the company I work for, the Smart Oven, and it has an air fry setting, but the lamps, they go to 4,000 degrees in a tenth of a second. So it achieves like super crispy caramelized skin, and it locks in the moisture of the meat. And so it's just like the juiciest meat while like crispy, caramelized, like crackly skin. It's so good. Sorry, vegetarians on the line. It also does crispy tofu, if you were wondering. So I think that's everything for today, unless y'all have any other questions. I hope you're inspired. I hope you make beautiful dinners for yourselves and families.
That was
Thank you,
delicious.
Anna.
Thank you.
Thank
Or it
you.
looked delicious.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye,
Anna.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.